Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be going over first line combat gear. First line combat gear is also known as a battle belt, and it's the minimum amount that you're going to want to carry on your person overtly in order to deal with a surprise or sudden gunfight. Now this is also the first piece of gear that you're going to want to construct, because once you do, everything else is built off of this system. So we're going to start getting into it. I'm going to go over what I like to carry, why I carry it, and how I carry it. The first couple pieces of kit that you're going to want to invest in is a good pair of glasses. I use these Smith's Aegis Echoes because they're thin enough profile that they can fit underneath my hearing protection without breaking the seal on my earmuffs. What I've got next is some electronic hearing protection. There's a lot of good ones out there. These are MSA Sordins. Now I get a lot of people ask me, are they still going to work if the batteries run out? Yes, they're just not going to amplify sound around you. Now the next piece of kit is you're going to want to get some good boots. I'm running some Under Armour Valsets. You want to get boots that are comfortable enough for you and that are broken in enough that you can at least move 12 miles in. Moving on, you're going to want to concern yourself with what main weapon you're going to want to take with you. Now, for civilians, I would only recommend an intermediate carbine, like an AR or an AK. And the minimum amount that you want for your carbine is a sling, a light, and an optic. The next rifle that civilians can be mainlining is a full-size long-range rifle. This is a Remington 700 and 308. The base things that you need for your long-range rifle are going to be a bipod, an optic, and a sling. A flashlight isn't as important on a long-range rifle as it is on a carbine, because you shouldn't be getting up close to people that you'd be able to eliminate them with your flashlight. That's why you have your secondary weapon with your flashlight on it in order to deal with up close circumstances. The last main rifle that I would suggest that civilians carry is a traditional pump action shotgun. Just like I like to use a bolt action long range rifle for reliability, I like to use a pump action shotgun for the same reasons. A lot of the semi-autos can be real finicky with ammo. So I like to run breaching shells, standard buck, and full-size slugs. And for a shotgun, you're going to want to have a sling and at least the light. Now, an optic isn't as important for a shotgun depending on the role that you have it in, whether that's a breaching role or a self-defense role. But, of course, putting an optic on your shotgun is always a plus. So what I usually main is my AR-15, and of course that's carbine, and it comes with a sling, a light, and an optic. So what I'm running here for a sling is a Faro Concepts Slingster, and what you want to make sure that you do is you want to keep it on the outside, one part of the sling, and the other side is going to be on the inside. That way when you put it on, it stays close to your body, and if you have to transition shoulders, it's not going to choke the fuck out of you. So, moving on from rifles and personal protective equipment, what I'm going to suggest next is, just like my ADC, a semi-auto 9mm compact handgun. This is a CZ P07 with shield arms 20 round extension and an XC1 pistol light. What I'm running that in is an outside the waistband A&R design holster, and that's worked really well for me so far. The next piece of kit that you're really going to want to concern yourself with is your IFAK. I've got a full IFAK here. I put it in the back, and I can ambidextrously reach it with either hand. You pull it out just like this. And this is a Esotec flat Viper IFAK. So we've got everything in here. It's all nice, put together, nothing's falling out. Good thing about this is that when you want to transport it with casualty or with yourself and you don't have time to put it back inside the stowage container, you can put it around your neck and it's right in your workspace. Let's say I'm working on a patient. I have everything right here on my person where I need it. So moving on from that, I have one additional piece of medical kit on my belt line. This is a cat tourniquet right here, and I've got it inside a cat trap. So I can just pull this out. This will be the first one that I go to, apply it on whatever it needs to be applied on, and then if I need to, I move on to the full kit. Next thing that you're going to want to consider, just like with your EDC, you want a handheld flashlight. That way you can identify things, whether they're a threat or not, without using weapon light in situations where that may not be appropriate or safe. So I've got this Surefire G2X or G2 in a theorem switchback. That way when I deploy my pistol, I can flip this over, remain with the light on, and go for a full two-handed grip on my pistol. With this theorem switchback, it's got a nice little clip on there, so I don't have to have any type of holster on my belt line. It just clips into one of the MOLLE pieces on my belt. Now moving on, what I've got is an STAC 2+1 magazine holster. So that's got 2 pistol magazines that are of course indexed to my dominant side. The bullet's facing forward. That way I can index it just like this and get it up into the gun. I do the same thing with my rifle mag to index it. Some people like to use a beer can grip, but I've got a broken wrist right now and that seems to kind of hurt me a little bit. So I like to run them with bullets indexed to my dominant side, just like my pistols. Now I'd suggest that you also carry a good fighting knife. I've got this one sandwiched in between the Velcro on my belt pad and my belt. It's a ZT 0100, and you want a big enough knife that if you're out doing work in the woods, something like that, you also have a survival knife on you. Now that's about it for the basic carry. Now there's additional things that you can carry on you, like personal retention lanyard. This can be used for a lot of things, to include keeping yourself tied into a vehicle. You can use it as casevac aid. What you do is you run up and you hook your carabiner onto some part of your casualty, whether that be on their plate carrier or what have you. And what that allows you to do, it allows you to hook into them and start dragging them back while still maintaining fire superiority. And of course, if you get into trouble, this has quick release right here. So if you start taking fire, your casualty is already dead, or you need to get the fuck out of there, you can just break the connection and move away. And the next thing I suggest you have on you is some work gloves. I've got some mechanics traditional work gloves tied into a key ring with my blood type and known allergies marked on it. That way, if I do take a round and they're treating me at a higher facility, they're going to know what my blood type is or whether or not I have any allergies. What I like to put on there as well is a pair of hinged cuffs. That way, if I have a combatant that's already surrendered but I can't trust them enough yet, I can put him in handcuffs and not have to worry about him coming after one of our weapons. Now, in addition to that, it's not absolutely necessary in most surprise encounters, but I like to keep a radio on me. All I have to do is I have to put that in there from off of my second line. Alright, and last but not least, let's talk about my belt. Up. What I'm using is a Ronin Tactics belt. Now what I'm using is a Ronin Tactics belt. what I like to do is I like to use these what the fuck straps to tie in my magazine holsters. And what this is an outer belt system. There's a lot of them out there that are really good. I really like my Ronin and this HSGI belt pad. That way I can don this over any type of clothes. I don't have to sit there and put an inner belt into my belt loops and then run off of that. Plus it's a lot more comfortable. So coming down here, like I said before, I've got my knife sandwiched in here behind my magazines. What I've done is I've just taken it down to the slick Kydex sheath that it has and put some hook and loop Velcro on that on the appropriate sides. That way it just sandwiches perfectly in between the belt and the pad. Moving on, I connect my personal retention lanyard on the back of my IFAK using this strip of Velcro one wrap. That way if I need to, I can just pull it out without having to unclick it or unsnap it. Makes it a lot easier, and it also makes it so that if I accidentally catch my personal retention lanyard on a doorway or a doorknob or something like that, it's not going to hold me up, it's just going to break away. So one last thing that I would suggest is that you try your best to keep the front of your belt as slick as possible. So I throw this right here for convenience, but in all reality, this should be going somewhere over off to the side. That way, if I need to go prone, I don't have anything here that's going to make me a higher profile target, and I'm going to be able to crawl a lot easier without everything getting hung up on things on the ground. So you do your best to keep this front line slick, and you'll be good to go. Now, one last note on our mag holsters is that if you're running 5.56, chances are that you're going to be able to run a 12 gauge shotgun card just like this, or a long range rifle card. This is going to allow you to seamlessly switch between different primary weapon systems. And what I like to do is I like to put a small strip of Velcro on the inside so that it interfaces with the back of this, and I can just shove that in there and it's going to stay in place until I actually want to use it and get it up onto the side of the gun so that I can start feeding ammunition from there. Same thing with the 12 gauge shotgun card. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get in there past the Velcro, but once it's in there for good. There we go. So I'm able to seamlessly switch between primary weapon systems by utilizing my standard 5.56 ammo pouch. Now for my other carbine, which is my AK, it doesn't quite fit in these S-Stack 5.56 pouches, but there are other AK specific magazine pouches that you can get that also have a 2 pistol magazine on them as well. So before I end the video, I'm going to go ahead and put everything back on. I'm going to give you a spin so that we can get a visual on all my equipment. Now I need to mention that between the two carbine choices that you have, either an AR and AK, it's going to be regionally dependent. and depending on ammo availability. In your region, if you have tons of 7.62 available, I'd say just go AK all day long. If that's what the local military and police use, go AK. But if not, if you're in America where everyone has an AR and 5.56, use a 5.56. Now when we're talking about mags too, since we're using so many different mags now, it's going to start to become important that you number your mags. That way, if there's a problem with one of them, you can quickly identify it. Remember, 2 was fucked up. And go ahead and get 2 out of your circulation. I do that with all my mags, whether those are rifle or pistol mags. And just like I said with your EDC, it's important to practice with what you carry often and be sure that you can actually move and run in your kit as it is. When you start running and doing everything else and working out in your kit, you're going to find out what works and what doesn't really quickly. Things are going to start falling off, things are going to start knocking on each other, and things are going to just go wrong. So if you don't ever get out there and train in your gear, you're not going to know if it actually works. So get out there and put in the time to make sure. So one thing that I really like to do is 6120s on the treadmill, wearing my first line. That way I can get used to starting and stopping and regulating my breathing and my heart rate, and then doing dry fire practices after and while I'm doing the 6120s. So hop off the treadmill, do some dry fire practice, and get used to shooting and getting down the mechanics while you're tired. That way, when you actually do get tired in a real life scenario, it's not as catastrophic or such a steep learning curve for you once you're in the situation. I think that's it. So that's it for today's video. If you learned something or you enjoyed it, please check out the next one where I'm going to be going over second line combat gear. Thanks for watching.